Are we live? I can't tell. Are we only live on YouTube or on Twitch? Okay, looks like we're live on YouTube and not on Twitch because Twitch is a booger and my Twitch videos, I don't know why, but someone from Vietnam keeps hacking into my Twitch channel and somehow, like, I don't know how they got in. And it's very annoying because I don't have like the login to my own Twitch channel. I do, but every time I log in, someone from Vietnam is logging out. And anyway, goodbye to my Twitch channel, which it's not such a big loss because I didn't invest so much in it anyway. First I'm going to share my YouTube live link. We're live. Okay. What's up? What's up, everybody? I love my YouTube people so much. I'm having actual second thoughts about even sharing this YouTube link to Twitter because my YouTube people are so much better than Twitter people. Like, Twitter is just like anybody and everybody. Hey, Joe. Yeah, like, I actually know the people on my YouTube channel, and I don't know the people on my Twitter. They're just, I mean, I know some of them, and I recognize them, but usually those people I recognize from YouTube anyway. So, oops, logo says keep it intimate, too late, I already sent out the tweet with my YouTube video. But, on the bright side, this is not on Periscope, this is only on YouTube, so if you're on Periscope, you can't see it. Nate says, missed your videos when you were away. Thank you so much, by the way, like, for constantly telling me to do live streams, because for a while I felt like my live streams were kind of dumb, and they weren't. And I mean, there are like Joe and there were, even last year when it was the beginning of when I was doing these things, those of you who were like literally putting your money where your mouth is and sending me super chats. And so I knew that like people really liked my live streams enough that it was valuable to them that they wanted me to. So I knew, so it's irrational for me to tell myself like these live streams are dumb and I shouldn't do them. But I got in my head a little bit, and thank you so much, Paul. Thank you so much, Paul. Thank you. It, like, the people, my viewers from my YouTube channel, thank you, Sagewave. Like, you're why I feel like encouraged to come back, because otherwise, it's just not something that a lot of people do. They just go on a live stream and just hang out. I see people do it with games and stuff, and I see people like Mike Cernovich and like Jack Posobiec and you know, Ali Alexander, people like that talk about politics, usually when they're very, very involved. Anyway, so Joe says, I lost my bet that Trump would win. Tell me about it. I thought Trump would win. I was very sure Trump would win. And I kept tweeting, like, I'd be very surprised if Biden wins. I'd be very surprised if Joe Biden wins. And he won. And I am very surprised. I'm not surprised that he won by a small margin. Like, I'm not surprised that he didn't get the turnout he expected, because people always overestimate how much in line everybody is with the Democratic Party. There's a lot more pressure to be in line with Democrats than there is to be in line with Republicans, obviously, but I'm still surprised. And a lot of people are discussing, why did Trump win? A lot of people are saying it's not over yet, like Truth Out There. This will go to court, and Trump already has his lawsuits. You know, he's got 6, as of this morning, there were 6 lawsuits across the country. He's suing like these state election boards or whatever for voter fraud and errors. There were a lot of errors, and there were dead people who voted for Biden and all that stuff. There's a lot of like stuff going on. They're saying it's very possible to commit voter fraud in Pennsylvania. So I guess like we have yet to see the results of those court cases, and it can drag out for a while, and maybe Trump will win those, but more likely he won't, is what the consensus is. Right, Rick? He probably won't. I
think it would be tough. I mean, they would have to overturn tens of thousands of ballots in several states for him to win.
Okay. So the likelihood of that happening is not likely. How come? Because it's not likely that many people committed voter fraud, or it's not likely that they even if they did, that they would even be able to figure that out.
I think it's both, and I mean, so you would need to prove either that there was fraud, or that at the very least, like, bless you, at the very least that ballots were sent in after the deadline, and that those were counted
Okay.
falsely. So, and that's, I mean, he needs Pennsylvania. Georgia, you might flip with like a recount and challenging some of the ballots, because the margin there is very small. But then you'd need either 20,000 votes in Wisconsin, or like 35,000 votes in Pennsylvania, or like 20,000 votes in Arizona. I mean, I know they're still counting in Arizona, but I don't know if he's going to get, like, he would need to win, I think, like 80% of the ballots that are left to be counted in Arizona.
Whoa.
Which is like a very tall order.
Yeah. And it is possible, I would say that, I mean, this is like one theory. It's possible that like maybe the people who are counting the votes are like counting all the Joe votes first, and then all the Joe votes first, and then all the Trump votes last. Maybe there are like people doing that kind of thing, whoever's doing the counting. I have all my theories, but I don't know how these poll stations work, so I can't say for sure. I mean, I don't even know if that's even possible, but maybe they do, because a lot of people who like, yeah. I think Anyway, Joe says it was like you tweeted a while back, don't leave your shithole place, move somewhere new and vote for the same shithole policies. Exactly. Don't leave your shithole behind, move somewhere new and vote for the same shithole policies. Interestingly, it seems like some of the red states have gotten redder. Tennessee, Florida. I mean, Florida wasn't even a red state, but now it seems like Florida's becoming a red state. Texas, a lot of places, I think parts of North Carolina, a lot of places that were like red or almost red are like getting redder. Even with all these new developments, it seems like a lot of people are leaving their blue states and moving to red states, and those people are actually voting Republican. And we were discussing it like people and you know, there's like the common idea that all these, we talk with our we've been talking to some people here in Texas, and it seems like, you know, people think that Texas turning blue, or Texas turning purple would be because of people coming in from out of state and voting for the same shithole policies. But the truth is that actually these people coming from California, most likely they're gonna vote for Republican policies. They want freedom. That's why they're moving here. It's the Texans themselves that seem to be voting Democrat. So, people are voting with their feet. So that's interesting. Anyway, Nate Mills says time for secession, too much being decided in DC. Country too divided. Based on what my human encyclopedia, Rick, says, I guess it's not possible really. It's just our like political landscape is way too complicated for any states to like secede successfully, and everything is just our economy is just way too intertwined. It wouldn't even be
Secession's really hard when one side has nukes.
Oh, one side has nukes, meaning like
The
Democrats?
federal
The federal
DC.
government. Oh, yeah,
And
yeah.
the generals would side with the Democrats. The generals are just as political and like whatever. They're super establishment.
Oh, okay. So yeah, like the generals don't like Trump. Well, a lot of them don't like Trump, and certainly the people at the tippy top don't like Trump. They won't even take executive orders from him. Don't ask me from how I know that. I lived and worked in DC for the past few years, and I worked very close to people who were working with these people. They don't like Trump, and they wouldn't even. No one's even. Who's gonna make them? Who's gonna force them to take an EO from President Trump? Nobody. So yeah, that's really true and possible that. That's really true. If Texas wanted to secede, it would just be Texas on their own. Else
Maybe the Russians would help.
maybe the Russians would help. Yeah, also like it won't be good for Texans because they won't be able to travel as easily, they won't be able to trade as easily. It's going to be a lot more complicated. Someone is asking what kind of wine I'm drinking. I'm drinking a Malbec. Alhambra, is that what it's called?
Alumbrado.
Alumbrado. It's an Alumbrado, it's a Malbec.
From Argentina.
From Argentina, in case you didn't hear that. El Scorchio says, I don't think Texans are turning liberal. Look at the 2018 votes for Abbott versus Cruz. This year, Cornyn versus Trump. I think a lot of them just prefer old school Republicans. Yes. And that's actually why. Oh, thumbs up, thumbs up. If you're on YouTube, go ahead and give me a thumbs up. You know what I'm talking about, that thumbs up button. No thumbs down, or else I'm gonna find you. I'm gonna come looking for you and I'll find you. I know where you live. I know where everybody lives. Someone says, why put up the wall when they'll just tear it down next year? Yeah. I think that the main, oh my gosh, Henry is on this live stream. Henry is our adopted child. We have adopted Henry. And he's on this live stream. So, the main reason, do you want to hear some music while we talk? Some like nice, relaxing music to like even out with the sound of my voice. Some like classical, nice music. Do you hear this? Oh no, an ad.
Are you ready to begin your new career?
Are you ready to begin your new career?
CE Shop has everything.
Okay. Ba-da-dum, ba-da-dum, ba-da-dum. This is Pachelbel's Canon in D major, which is a little bit distracting because they play it in C major, so it's distracting. But anyway, I will continue. The main reason why I think that Trump lost is because people didn't vote for Trump. And even despite the minority vote and the Latino vote and all these votes, these new votes that came out for Trump, Trump's base that originally voted him into office did not fully vote for him this time. And I believe it And actually, the only person that I heard say it as perfectly, ironically, was this guy named Owen Benjamin. He also has a theory that all these women in power are secretly dudes who are trannies. So he said a lot of things on that live stream, and I think he was drinking. But I think that he nailed the part about the election being the reason why Trump lost. Aaron Roberts says Trump actually lost 5 points of the white male vote, and that's really interesting because and 1 second, I'm gonna go back to this, but just a quick shout out. Henry Elcock Haskins in the comments in YouTube says, everyone follow the 2.5 American podcasts on Spotify, me, Pardes, and Rick. And it's true, we do have a podcast. It's called a 2.5 American Podcast, and it's on Spotify. It's on a bunch of different streams, but I will send a link because we'll have another episode coming out, and I'll tweet out the link. So if you're not on Twitter to see it, go ahead and follow me on Twitter at Pardesella, and you'll see it because I will tweet it out, and you'll be able to listen to our podcast. It is me, Rick, and our adopted child, Henry. I'm trolling when I call him that. Jakob says he lost because of college kids. Look at the 18 to 25 votes. Insanity. So call it interesting. This music is like so distracting. I can't like not listen to it. So Logo says social media censorship doesn't help either. So I was listening to a few podcasts today, and a few of the podcasts that I was listening to today, like I listened to like a little bit of each one, and they all are like Biden, 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 Biden. And when you actually listen to what they're saying, none of them actually pay attention to politics. They were like, it was mostly women that I was listening to podcasts. And they were just like, oh, I don't know. I just don't want like a racist, sexist president. How could anybody want a racist, sexist president? And none of them actually seemed to know anything about Trump or Biden or Kamala. I don't even know if any of them knew who Biden's running mate was. I think a lot of people are, as Logo says, like just bought by social media and mainstream media and all those stuff. Like, it's really just so like people just being sheep and going along with the narrative. And the other side, like the woke side, the red-pilled side, is basically people who do pay attention to politics and are like, oh my gosh, like these people have dominated every aspect of our lives and our academic institutions and everything, and they're like bullying everyone into having their ideas. And Trump was supposed to be the one person that like stood up to all of it and like stood up against the media and all that stuff. Trump was supposed to be like the person who's like firm on the right, but he like changed a little bit. More towards the end, he spent a lot of his campaign, I think, trying to appeal to Democrats and cross voters. And I think a lot of his base saw that. I personally know a lot of people who like weren't interested in voting for him for that reason. He's the only Republican president who would have gone ahead with UBI. Like, he would have gone ahead with it's not called UBI because no Republican would actually consciously vote for a UBI for like this amount of like this kind of social welfare program where everyone's forced to stay home and just get a check from the government. No Republican in the right mind would do that, but they somehow got Trump to do that. Stay home, there's COVID, stay in your house, you'll get a check from the government. And he prided himself on that. his campaign pushed that as if that was like a positive. That's like something that you should vote for him because of. And it's like, well, maybe a Democrat would vote for him for that reason, but not even. I mean, Democrats are already sold on Biden, but definitely the people who voted him in thinking that he might act like a Republican were like, no, I'd rather not vote for him.
I didn't vote for him.
Rick had the same idea. I'd rather not vote for him and make the GOP become farther left than it is. Oh.
I didn't vote for Biden, for the record.
And he didn't vote for Biden either. He didn't vote for either of them. And that's, yeah.
It's his fault.
Yeah, and I know a lot of people like that. I just don't, I don't want, like, Trump is, I mean, now Biden is definitely, I think, going to be the most progressive president we ever had. But until Biden, Trump has been the most progressive president we ever had. Even more than Obama. Because, and we just are not allowed to talk about that because, like, he's a Republican. So with Trump, Republicans who were free market capitalists, they were not pro social welfare, social security, all these government restrictions and lockdowns, but Republicans were forced to go along with it because the person who was leading it was a Republican. But with Biden, at least Republicans can just say, like, screw that guy. You know, people in the Senate and the House who are Republicans, they can just vote against everything he pushes forward. And it's fine because he's a Democrat, so they can just go against him. And that's why a lot of Republicans were like, Trump is not fighting for us, so we would rather fight for us ourselves instead of having a Republican president that won't fight for us. Anyway, Joe says, do Republicans still have the Senate? I believe so. Yes, Republicans still have the Senate. Is it by more? I believe, like, I don't think that Republicans got more seats. I think they're just safe. They're not, like, better or worse, right?
They lost one seat.
They lost one seat. Republicans lost.
They lost two, but then they picked one up, so net one.
And they're not still counting on that, like, we know for sure?
We're not sure, but there's two races in Georgia that are going to a runoff, and I'm pretty confident that the Republicans are going to win both.
Okay, so Republicans are safe with the Senate.
Pretty much.
Yaakov says Senate could very possibly end up split going to Kamala. Ah!
Yeah.
They
lose both of the Senate races in Georgia.
Oh my gosh.
Then it would be 50-50, and the vice president casts the tiebreaker vote.
Oh my gosh. She, like, makes me cringe. I might, like, stop watching politics a little bit because of her, because she actually makes me cringe. The fact that people are praising her being in office just because she's a brown female, like, what? If I were to be in any sort of office, nobody would say that about me. They wouldn't care about that. It's just because she's Democrat. But still, like, nobody cares about anything she did. That's, like, really cringy. She like, so many people's lives are, like, in her hands in a lot of ways. And they're gonna be like, oh, well, it's great that she has brown skin and a vagina. We're so happy that she is our vice president. Yes, and she's so sassy. She's just, like, so condescending, and her fake smile, oh my god. So, James says she will weaponize NSA spy tools. There's many things I'm worried about before I'm worried about the NSA spying on me. I already feel like my information is already just, like, everybody's information is already out there, thanks to big tech and data sharing. So I don't even have a mental capacity to be worried about NSA spying. And yeah. Another thing about Trump losing, it's not just Trump. Do you guys hear the music, by the way? I like this piece. It's like so calming. I like everything that's from Bach. So basically, when I was in DC, when Trump won in the beginning, I actually moved to DC before Trump even won. So I was there for like the whole crazy thing. Like when I first moved to DC, it was like 4 years ago. And all the people it was 4 years ago, like right before the election happened. It was like September. And everybody was 100% sure that Hillary was gonna win. And everybody, like Trump supporters, were 100% sure that Hillary was gonna win. Everybody was sure that Hillary was gonna win. And all these people were like moving into town the same time as me that were like working either for Hillary Clinton's campaign or like they were like planning on transition. They were on her transition team, so they were planning on working in her administration. There were a lot of those like nice people. They were like super establishment-y Democrats that wanted to work, that were gonna work in her administration. And this one guy even like bought, and his parents bought him a condo because they were so sure that Hillary was gonna win. They bought him a condo in a very expensive, bougie part of DC that he could live in for when he works in the Clinton administration. They had no doubt. And then Trump won, and he was like, what? It was like insane. Everybody, and that was really cool. And suddenly, like, the Trump people suddenly had to find a place to live because they were so sure that they weren't going to get it. So they didn't even, a lot of them, and so there was like a transition period. There was so much chaos because all these new Trump people started moving in, and they were like, and for me, I didn't really care because I wasn't working like directly in politics at the time. I was just working for different like conservative media outlets, so whatever, didn't make a difference for me. But people who actually worked in the administration, yeah, there were like so many new people pouring in, and they were suddenly, everybody who was like pro-Trump was energized and empowered in some way, and there started to be like this network of people who were like pro-Trump's, like Trump supporters, who were just hanging out at these different parts of town that were like the only places that you could go to wearing a MAGA hat without someone like kicking you out or yelling at you or something. And I'm not being overly dramatic by saying that. DC is a very, very, very blue district, arguably the bluest district in America. So yeah, people do get really, really pissed off if they see you in a MAGA hat. I would say it might not even be safe. So like, that made people who are Trump supporters even closer together and create this whole network. But the problem is that when you move to a new city, oftentimes you want to become loved and accepted by the people who live in that city. And the way that it was with Trump supporters, the way I see it, is that a lot of people, and it's not just Trump, it's not just the president, a lot of people who were in that like club would move to DC, they would become kind of, and I felt the temptation also, even though I wasn't such a big, I wasn't so political to begin with, but I just felt the temptation to like show everybody how much I hate Trump. I mean, I didn't do that. I actually didn't do that. Proudly, I didn't do that. I didn't fall into that whole stupid mentality of like, you know, the first thing you say before anything to anybody that you meet in the context of politics is you know, I don't like Trump, but I hate Trump, but blah 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 blah. I don't like that. But that's the culture in DC. people are so obsessed with optics and obsessed with not being controversial. And what I found was even the conservatives in DC are like that already. They're just like that to cringe. Like they will be more on your case about not saying something too edgy because they don't want to get in trouble for being associated with you, and they will like distance themselves from you if they think that you're too like, oh no, we don't associate with this person. They're like fringy. Fringy is like the word that's used a lot. Like, ew, that person's fringe. They're like one of these MAGA people. So, and it really is like that in DC. That mentality started creeping into Trump camp because Trump camp started to become more mainstream. The longer the Trump administration and the Trump campaign people and the Trump supporters and the Fox Newses, I worked at Fox, so the longer these people were in DC and running the show, the more mainstream they became. And they became more accepted by Democrats, a lot of people. Like, I remember getting, like, I was getting job offers from MSNBC because, like, oh, like Fox News, it's like mainstream, right? So the more it became like that, though, the more those people, the Trumpies, started to act like optics F words. I don't know if I can say that on my live stream because I don't want to get demonetized. But like optics F words. They just became obsessed with optics. And oh no, and Fox was like that so much, so badly. Like they had a blacklist of people that were right wing. They didn't have a blacklist of people that were left wing. They had a blacklist of people who were on the right that they didn't want to associate with. Even if this person has millions and millions of followers and views and subscribers, they won't bring this person on their shows, and they have banned that person from ever stepping foot in Fox just because they don't want to be associated with that person, just because they're so obsessed with optics. And that mentality started creeping into the Trump administration. People became being very obsessed with being politically correct and very obsessed with, and I know Trump himself isn't politically correct, but yeah, he did a lot to like compromise with Democrats and try to like, I mean, the whole playing into like the whole coronavirus stuff and playing into like, you know, this administration has the minority vote, doing the kind of thing that Republicans always complain about Democrats doing. I mean, it's cool and interesting to see that, like, Republicans are better at Democrats in their own game, but it is Democrats' game. Being all obsessed with the way that people's skin color, it doesn't make you less racist, maybe even more racist. That's a game that Republicans don't play, and they're not they're not gonna pat you on the back if you play that game. Oh, but we're the best for Asians. Okay, maybe more Asians will vote for you, but that mentality of like, you're gonna lose more of your own people because you're not being real than gaining new Asians or whatever. Sorry, let me look at some of your comments. Sky Griffin says, I heard Trump will start Trump TV next year and bring Tucker, Laura, and others. That'd be fun. I'm sure he'll do great. He'll make it great. It'll be like The Apprentice, but like, you know, even bigger. Fox News can finally become the optics F words that they always wanted to be and lose all their viewers to Trump TV. I'm sure they will lose all their viewers to Trump TV because it's just so pathetic. They were like so Don't tweet anything too edgy. Whatever. Pussies. And I didn't even tell you the full story of Fox. Someday I will. Okay.
Docs Fox.
Docs Fox. And the worst part is like, you have the kind of people who work there, the kind of people who work there are like the DC people who are like obsessed with optics and like obsessed with like sucking up to like their liberal friends who don't care about them and don't respect them at all. Your liberal friends that you're sucking up to would respect you a lot more. I speak from experience. I have liberal friends, many of them that are amazing. They're the best liberal friends anyone has ever had. And the reason why they're the best liberal friends ever is because I don't suck up to them the way that some of you guys, not you actually, my viewers are the absolute best. They're really, I feel like they really are the best. But like the way that some of those people in DC do, like, I don't do that kind of stuff. And the Trump administration, but also mostly Fox, is just filled with those kind of people who just like suck up to liberals so much. And like, nobody respects you. Nobody like cares about you. Your content is less interesting. The only reason that people watch Fox is because they are tricked into thinking that Fox is on their side, because they do hire a lot of people who are on that side of things, who are like genuinely and honestly on that side of things. Like Laura Ingraham, it's my former boss, Tucker Carlson, Sean Hannity. Those people genuinely believe whatever they're saying. I'm not saying that I agree with everything they're saying, and I'm not saying that to be an optics effort. I actually genuinely don't agree with a lot of things they say, but they do seem to genuinely believe what they're saying, and that's why they have an audience, and they're bringing in all the money for all these people that are like smooching off of it. Anyway, Henry says, and we're gonna go soon. I'm gonna go soon, and see you guys later. And I'm gonna put up a poll in YouTube. So I'm gonna put up a poll in YouTube saying what time is best for you guys for me to continue doing these live streams, potentially every day. So I just want to know what time is good for you guys. And I'm gonna so answer my poll when I put it up, and subscribe and make sure your notifications are on. So when I post that poll, you see it, so you can vote for what time you like. But anyway, Henry says that the amount of liberals here is insane. Henry lives in the UK, so in the UK, even their conservatives are very liberal by our standards.
Let's give Henry our condolences.
Our condolences to Henry.
And anyone who lives in a shithole European country.
Yes, and anyone who lives in a shithole European country. No matter what happens, even though, like Joe Biden is our president, we're still way, way, way better off than all these countries. Even if there are people here trying to make America like one of these socialists. I was watching this, sorry, I'm going off on so many tangents, but there was this guy, remember babe, that YouTuber that I was watching, that he was from Israel. He lived in Germany and Israel, and he was like talking about how people make money in Israel. Israel, it's really hard. Israel's like, would you call Israel a socialist country? They're like borderline socialist.
They're probably more fascist than socialist, it sounds like, but they have so many taxes and regulations in particular. Like, there's a market, but it's like...
No hate. My siblings live in Israel, so...
Yeah, it seems like a really cool country, but like 100% sales tax on a car is what your sister was saying.
Their taxes are insane. The government has so much control over so many things that you do. It's insane. And
That's why all the great Israeli companies and businessmen come to America.
Yeah.
I know tons of awesome, intelligent, brilliant Israelis that go you ask them, why'd you move here, and it's like, well, I can't do business there.
They can't make money in Israel. They start a company, and either they start a company and an American company buys it off them, or they come here to like they can't actually reap the benefits of anything they do there. They don't make money. And
it's a total self-cut for Israel.
yeah.
Like, they're having a brain drain to the United States. Like, my friend Guy Singer, like, his parents are both two of the top experts in machine learning, like AI, basically.
Wow.
And they were from Israel, and they came to the Bay Area because they, like...
Because for them, the Bay Area is less...
Yeah.
Is more free market than
affordable.
Israel. And affordable. Yeah, it's also so expensive.
To be fair, they came here in like 20 years ago probably, so it probably was a lot cheaper than it is now. So.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
still.
Yeah. Like the Bay Area to these people was cheaper than living in Israel and easier to make money than living in Israel. It's crazy. And it's like everything is so expensive there, but it's also it's really expensive to live. And then you got this crazy... my sister asked me, like, so what percentage did you buy your car... like, what percentage sales tax did you have in your car? Was it, like, 50% or something? And I was like, what? Like, I paid, like... You know how much I paid sales tax on my car? I paid $300 sales tax on my car. And even that, I was like bummed. I was like, what? I was at the DMV and I was like, what? $300? I would have had to pay like the same amount that I paid for my car. I would have had to pay in taxes if this was Israel. It's crazy. But, like, anyway, this guy was saying that he moved to Israel from Germany because it's harder to make money in Germany. Like, than it is in Israel. So after all of that, I was like, what? It's harder to make money in Germany? These, like, European countries have cucked their citizens so bad that you can... They've cucked their citizens so bad that you just, like, anything is better. So what I'm saying is, yes, Joe Biden and Commie Kamala won, but it's still we're not a social. We're still way better off than any of these European countries. Any other these countries, they're all socialist shitholes. So we should be very happy about that. And someday we're going to Rick and I are going to formally adopt Henry and bring him to the United States. And woohoo! We'll get him to move to Texas. Morgan Risnay says he lost because, I hope I said your name right. He lost because he didn't get the votes. People who say Democrats cheated should actually try proving proof. If they seriously think that. I saw a lot of videos of like people like selectively pulling out ballots and throwing them in the garbage. I saw like these videos of like people finding Trump ballots outside. They might have made that up, but then there was also this website where people were finding like literally like records of dead people who were registered Democrats when they were alive, and then they were voting. I mean, so there is a lot of like stuff out there. The only question is whether the amount of voter fraud, so there is, in my mind, no question that voter fraud happened. The only question is whether it was enough to turn around the election outcome. OY says, OMG, here we go with the socialism stuff. I don't understand this boogeyman at all. European countries aren't socialist. Babe, is that true? Are European countries not socialist?
If it's like a spectrum, right? And America's obviously not fully free market capitalism, but like, if it's on a spectrum from like what America was 100 years ago, being the most free, to like communist China, right? Like communist China 40, 50 years ago under Mao.
Joe says you need to come on screen to say
obviously, like, European countries are more socialist than the United States. Like, I think that's pretty clear. And there's certain situations where, like, The regulatory situation in Sweden and some of these Nordic countries is actually not as bad. And the corporate tax situation is not as bad in some of these countries, but like individual income tax are ridiculously high. I know that in the UK, I mean, Henry might correct me if I'm wrong, but like even in the UK, which is the exception and it's freer than most European countries, the personal income taxes are like 40% on income above like £150,000 or something like that, which is like 200K.
That's insane. 40% income tax is insane.
Yeah.
And the thing is, the only reason you don't think that's socialist is because you grew up in a shithole. So like, of course you're not gonna think that's socialist. You grew up like being just like licking your.
Markets are freer in. I mean,
Y says I'm Scandinavian.
Yeah, I mean, look, like in Scandinavia, it's a lot easier to start a business in a lot of countries because there's not as much red tape.
Okay.
Like, I'll give them that, and that's part of the reason why it like.
By the way,
works.
Thanks for watching. I don't know why I have Scandinavian viewers, but it's really cool to me, and I think it's really cool that you're watching. So, thank you. That's awesome.
Henry says it's 45% on income above £150,000. That's like literally almost half of every dollar that you make above 100 and I guess with the conversion rate.
You might as well not make that much and just try to like stay below that amount.
OY says that yeah, I mean the only European country I would say is like clearly freer than America is like because of the regulatory situation and because the corporate taxes are a lot lower, like Switzerland is hands down freer than the US in a lot of areas. But like all these European countries are basically piggybacking off of about half of all American healthcare spending is private. The other half is government, right? But like that half that's free-ish and is regulated to death is literally like the source of all medical innovation in the world, pretty much.
Whoa.
And like imagine how much better it would be if it wasn't so socialized. And like a lot of the time people talk about price gouging and stuff. It's like, yeah, they need to make a profit and these European countries are free riding off of all of our innovation. And they basically force these companies, they say like you can't make more than like a 5% profit off of us. So like otherwise you don't get to sell anything to our country.
So like it seems like the more productive you are, the more money you make, and the more you create, the more you're going to be punished for it.
The more you make, the more they take.
The more you make, the more they take. The better you are, the more you get punished for it. Like, it's not a society that rewards...
Virtue is vice.
Yeah.
Production is a vice.
It's a society that rewards, like, being poor. It rewards being poor. Like...
We subsidize poverty.
The more of a victim you are, the more, like...
Free shit you get.
OY says, the Scandinavian viewer says, that's true, we're taking a bit of a free ride on innovation.
Mm-hmm.
And like the truth is that like if government didn't provide like welfare, I mean, and definitely if you take it, you're going to appreciate it, you know? Like, but if government didn't provide it, if the system was set in a way that it was up to people, like, there would be a lot more opportunities handed out by the private sector. It would be a lot easier. It's not like it would be the same except minus government charity, you know?
Because if you didn't have zoning laws and occupational licensing, like you need to take a test in order to get a certain job, like you do in America, or take like a 1-year-long course, like unemployment would be almost zero. And you'd be able to start your own business and sell real estate without a stupid piece of paper from the government that takes you months and months to get.
Yeah. Jean Lee says, if blockchain is a new future, I'm concerned that lots of future millionaires will be taxed to oblivion. Therefore, why even invest in tech?
Well, tech's also getting destroyed by regulation.
Henry's-
Whoever wins.
Henry says, without taxes, my parents would be earning easily 7 figures. Beast! Sorry. And they're probably taking like, yeah, that's good. And it's like, oh, but you need roads and you need firefighters. It's like, dude, you don't need to take half of my salary to build roads and firefighters. If you took half of someone's salary, like half of Henry's parents' salary, that'd be enough to pay for the roads and firefighters in that like neighborhood, I'm sure. Or like, you know, you don't need that much.
America survived its first 150 years without an income tax.
Really?
We had no income tax with like they tried to pass it a couple of times and the Supreme Court said no, you can't do that.
Even in Texas, where we don't have a state income tax, but there's only just like the federal taxes, like even in Texas, they take a lot out of your salary. Even with, I mean, not Texas itself, there's no state income tax, but like, you still like, there's so many ways also for them to tax you. It's insane. I'm still bummed about my $300 that I'm never getting back. Boo-hoo from my car. Okay, so we're gonna go now. Thanks everybody. Thank you Paul Nye for your super chat. That was really sweet. And thanks Joe Anderson for your super chats in general. You guys are always motivating me, and thank you Doug for thanks everybody for joining. And so I'm gonna put a poll that asks you when you would rather my live streams be. And thank you, Nate. I will definitely do more live streams. And you can vote and tell me when you like them. So see you all later. Have a great weekend. Bye.